If your drum and bass tracks are coming across as heavy but not impactful, you might be just stacking sounds instead of writing songs. If that's the case, I got some ideas for you. I'm going to be running through a whole bunch of songwriting and energy tips and tricks that I use to help build my latest DNB project file, Tremor. All the tactics for you to use in your own DNB bangers. Right, let's get into it. And first up is how I structured my drop. There wasn't just going to be 16 bars of just, let's send it. No, there's going to be 16 bars of structured send. So if we break this down to an 8-bar section, we got A, B, A, C. Then we got A, B, A, C. Again, slight variations of it. So this on one hand will help keep it familiar, but also introduce enough variation that keeps it interesting. So structured chaos. So you'll notice the fluctuation between that honky foghorn. Comes in there, comes in there. Subtle twist. Bring it back in. And then in between those A sections we have the B, which is the thumpy section. There's a place here. So the bounce back between A, B, A, and subtle variation for C. Keeps it alive, keeps it interesting, and also very structured. So this leads into point 2. If it's very familiar and it's very structured, the listeners think they know what they're getting for the final drop. Sounds familiar? Relenting bass. They're not going to expect that. They're going to expect some that kind of action, which can be introduced slightly later so you don't edge them for too long. And yeah. Familiar? One sustained long, just in your face no. Back into familiar. It's the old switcheroo for the final drop. We're kind of very familiar with the fake out version of the old switcheroo. Ultimately, I think it's about finding that balance between something that's familiar and something that's going to keep your listeners on their toes too. So you want to find that perfect sweet spot middle ground. Another classic songwriting thing which I utilize in this track is call and response. Is really utilized in the build-up of this track. So we'll just play it. Did you notice it? It's this foghorn bass right here. And it's slowly getting more and more aggressive each time it plays until the final note, which I thought was cool. You know, foghorn getting angrier, etc, etc. Right click this, bounce to new track. So it's going to render the audio in place and spit me out the bounce version of that. And you might be able to kind of see where I'm going with this. This empty gap here has nothing playing. We can go ahead and drag this bounce audio into the gaps between our foghorns. So we've established this kind of call and response pattern, but with a few effects we can take this to another level, because this was the bounced audio of this foghorn, but a few more effects on it, this little radio weird filter, reverb and delays, and blend it a little bit into the background. So now this little mini foghorn is echoing what this huge foghorn's doing. Now if I play them together, that just helps keep the listeners engaged because they want to latch on to that call and response kind of pattern. That's a few of the songwriting tips. Let's break into the energy tips now. Another trick that gets utilized heaps in this track is the dynamics. So if you don't know what dynamics is, it's the bit between the really loud parts and the really quiet bits. So the build up, energy. Suspense, quiet. Slammed in the face. It's to really play on those moments, and like I said many times in this video, keep your listeners on their toes. A really quiet and suspenseful bit right before a really loud and in your face bit. It's just gonna make the loud and intense bit that much more dramatic and just crazy. So one more time. Build. we didn't have that in our track. It's good, but like the suspenseful break in between really just takes it up another notch. Asterisk in my opinion. And this play on dynamics happens in this track quite a bit, if I'm honest. Not just one constant level of just noise and just like intro, build up, drop, relentless from the get-go. Build it up, tension, release. So yeah. Suspense, quiet. And speaking of energy, I feel like there's 3 ways to come out of a drop. 1 is to build up into an even bigger drop. 2 is to have a little quiet, dynamic, subtle section, and number 3 is to kind of ease them down off the hecticness of the first drop. So I chose number 3 in this track. Hectic, chaos, starting to move down. We're at a new level. We were here, now we're here. It's still amping, but it's not quite at the energy level of that first drop. So my 2 cents and recommendations is take some long sustaining notes like this bass. And to also switch up the drums to some more stable, less hectic kind of. That's very intense. Verse suddenly. Bit more mellow DNB. And lastly, to touch upon dynamics, which I mentioned before about this first drop. Notice we have the gap. Suspense. Silence. That only goes for 4 bars. And in drop number 2, the audience thinks they know what they're getting. However, they're thinking they're about to get that 4 bar sustained suspense section. Nah, I'm doing 8 bars now. Super suspenseful. So really play on the dynamics, and when the audience thinks they know what they're getting, double it. And while we're on drop number 2, something which I attribute to a lot of the energy of the second drop is this vocal repetition right here. Well, we do introduce it in this build-up, but playing over the drop with this 16th tremolo effect, so without it, kind of works, but introduce the 16th, introduce the really fast repetition of this element. Insane energy, instant uplift. So that is a very quick and easy way to instantly inject energy into a drop. To introduce kind of like a 16th rhythmic element to something is just going to carry so much more energy. But also the hi-hats on the second drop are doing some 16ths. Just add to the speed, the energy, the intensity. We're good. Drum and bass is naturally just a fast tempo. You need to play to those strings. I feel like that's kind of why this new wave of trap that's popping off at the moment is very heavily centered around 16th, because it carries so much more energy than just the old school trap sound. I definitely want to cater towards more songwriting techniques for the bass music producer. There's loads of tips and tricks you can do to keep your listeners just latched onto your tracks with all the subtleties and differences, as well as just the intense and heavy build up and drop. If you did want to grab this entire project file, it is called Tremor. I'll leave a link to that in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.